Right before we jump into this video, have you downloaded my app called My Gear Vault? It's the best way to input, organize, protect your gear, and it's absolutely free for iOS and Android. And oh yeah, if you need insurance, you can get a quote right through the app, because what if somebody steals your gear and you're not covered? You're SOL. So let's get to the video. Jared Polin, FroKnowsPhoto.com, and this is an unboxing, sniff test, wind tunnel test, and review of the Tamron 28-75 2.8 for Sony mounts natively. This is an interesting lens because it's one of the first lenses that you can get for Sony E mounts that's not made by Sony, and it autofocuses and does what you need, but it doesn't have VC, vibration compensation. Now, why doesn't it have VC in this lens? Because the Sony cameras have built-in steady shot. So we'll talk more about that when we get into this review, but let's unbox it and see what is inside. Papers in a bag. Do you know what I do with this stuff? I throw it away. Boxes over here. Oh, by the way, I keep all my boxes, so you probably don't want to throw it there. And I also scan all my receipts into my Gear Vault, so it's nice and stored when I need it, along with the serial numbers. So this is the lens. This is a 28-75, and it's a 2.8. Now, when I first heard about this, I'm like, why would you make a 28 instead of a 24? And part of the reason, and the reasoning I got back from Tamron, is for the size and weight. They were able to keep the weight down for the smaller cameras. Now, in comparison, the 24-70 2.8 G Master lens from Sony is a $2,200 hunk of glass that is much heavier than this. You could basically buy 3 of these for one of those. But now there's a little bit of a trade-off. Is the G Master lens going to be sharper than this lens? I think subtly, because of just the optics that are in there, but at the end of the day, you probably won't notice much of a difference. But for $800 to get started with a lens like this, it's probably not a bad choice for somebody who just picked up the Sony A7 III for $2,000. You may not want to spend, or may not be able to spend, $2,200, when on the flip side, you could spend $800 and you can get a 2.8 lens. So I took this lens along with the Sony A9 out to the Philadelphia Museum of Art. That's where Rocky ran up the stairs. And I photographed a statue across the street. I get to the stairs and Rocky later, but the statue across the street has this lady laying there. You can see her at 28 millimeters. You can also see her at 75 millimeters. And what I did notice is that there is some pretty good vignetting going on when you're at 28 millimeters. I don't care about vignetting in images. You can correct for that in the RAW files now very well. Now, I'm not trying to hide the fact that it's there. I just think that I like vignetting in some of my shots. Not all of them, but 90% of the time, I think it helps and adds to my image than takes away. In terms of sharpness and color, the photos look pretty good of Rocky Balboa, the statue outside of the art museum. I didn't mind having 28. I probably would like having 24, but if you don't have that option, you're not really going to miss it. So 28 is going to give you some wider angle shots for those group shots. It's going to allow you to zoom in and get some tighter shots of you could do portraits with this lens. I don't think it's going to be the greatest portrait lens in the world, but if you are going to shoot portraits with this, I recommend that you do it all the way out at 75 millimeters. And that does bring up the question of, will this be a good lens on a crop sensor Sony camera? It will be an okay lens, but I don't think this focal length is what I would personally go with, because when you multiply it by 1.5 or 1.6 to justify the crop factor, you're losing that wide angle capability, and it's kind of a middle of the road zoom lens at that point. So really on the full frame side, I think it's a good option with the 28-75. But now let's talk about those famous stairs that Rocky ran up at the art museum, and I gave you some wide angle shots to take a look at. Now don't forget that you can download these RAW files and play with them to see if this is a lens that you would want to have. How's the color? How's the sharpness? How's the tone? Is there vignetting? Is there bowing going on? But the shots look pretty good of the stairs. I think they look pretty straight, considering with the 28 millimeters and then zooming into 75. At the top of the stairs, there was a water fountain, but we're in Philly, so I can say water fountain. So there's a water fountain at the top, and the shots look fine. Look, If somebody is making a lens today and it sucks, they should not be in business. So the companies that are out there putting out these pieces of glass aren't putting out crap. They may not be as great as the top of the line lenses, but I will tell you, when I reviewed the 70-200 G2 from Tamron and put it against the Nikon 70-200 2.8, you really had a tough time of sitting there telling the difference. So the value that you're getting in these Tamron lenses is very good. Now let's do the wind tunnel test. I'm going to do it from right here today so you can get full wind on this one. See, that was a tougher test because I tried 3 pulses of wind, and this withstood all of that. Not very aerodynamic, but the wind did a pretty good job going around the lens hood, so passes the wind tunnel test, but the sniff test is super important. Do you hear that noise? It sounds like that's a Boeing 787 Dreamliner. Now, why do I say it smells like a Boeing 787 Dreamliner? Because when I photographed the brick wall, you can notice the Boeing at 28 millimeters. Just look at it. You can see that the lines aren't straight. That's something that you see in ultra-wide-angle lenses sometimes, more so than a 24-70 or a 28-75 in this case. So there is some Boeing going on there. So one of the things you could do with the group shot is you could take a step back and zoom out to maybe 35 millimeters, and you'll have less Boeing at that. But you also notice with some of the sample shots, you can see the vignetting around the edges. Don't forget, you can download the files of the brick wall. I've left those unedited as raw files because you can determine whether it's good or not for you. Now, would you use this for video? Well, you could use it for video, especially on the Sony. It's got the built-in stabilization already in the body, and it's going to do really well. I did do some slow handheld shots where I shot at 1/8 of a second to see if I could do it, and I could do it, and that's a testament to the camera because this does not have that VC. The bokeh in the background of the bobblehead looks fine. You can analyze those shots all you want. That's up to you to determine whether that's good or not. So is this a lens for you if you have a Sony? Now, with more people buying Sonys and more of the third-party companies coming out with E Mount glass for native Sony cameras, would you pick this up? Do you need a 24-70 more so than a 28-75? Let me know down below in the comments. If you want to check out some other reviews, you can click up on the screen right now. Check out another video over here as well. Don't forget to like, comment, share, subscribe. Hit that bell button so you can be notified when new videos go up, and you can be the first to say first. That's it. Jared Polin, FroKnowsPhoto.com. See ya.